This is a video of Russell Carpenter accepting the Oscar for Best Cinematography for the work he did on Titanic. And while winning an Oscar is an impressive achievement, the road to get there is not easy. A few years before winning his Oscar, Russell shot a movie called Solar Crisis, which he describes as a
disaster of a film. One of the worst films that's ever been made. I did a lot of chop socky movies and, some really not good stuff. But I would look at other people who just kind of came down from the mountain of the gods. At that time, Janusz Kaminski, and I just said, okay, well, they just landed from some other planet because right out of the box, they're amazing. I'm just going to just be happy to survive in the business.
As hard as Russell worked to survive, there were still moments where he felt like,
I'm done. Nothing's gonna happen.
One of those moments is when his new job working on the show The Wonder Years lasted only 4 episodes. And at that point, he truly felt like he was
back to square one.
But then he took a job as the director of cinematography on Pet Sematary 2, even though he
really didn't want to do it because it was this, boy, I have done enough of these films.
But the funny thing about life is
you never know what's going to lead to anything.
For example, one of the child stars who worked on Pet Sematary 2 was Eddie Furlong, who just come off of shooting Terminator 2 with James Cameron.
The people who worked as his kind of handlers, because he was a minor, they said, I don't know what it is. We just think he'd work really well with Jim Cameron. And I said, okay, I agree. And there were a couple of other people who kind of mentioned that.
One day on set, they threw a birthday party for Eddie, and you'll never guess who stopped by. James Cameron.
He sat on the back steps and I said hi, and we talked for a little while. And, that was that.
A couple months later, Russell got a call from James's producer. He wanted to shoot a low-budget, non-union picture and thought that Russell would be great for it. This was his chance. But then
2 weeks later, that film went away, And I said, okay, well, that's as close as I'll ever get to somebody doing the kind of work that he's doing.
But then a couple of months after that, his producer calls back and says he has another film coming up and he wants to
talk to you about it. He just wants to have lunch with you. I didn't say, what film is it? All I said was, okay. My crew and I, and this is before the internet was really going, we're looking through all the trays trying to figure out what he was going to do. And it was, all I could see was a film called True Lies. And I went right past that film. Because I thought, well, he wants something. He's got a documentary coming up and stuff like that. And I couldn't put myself in the same box. Didn't see myself in that arena.
True Lies was going to be the most expensive movie ever made up to that point. With a budget of over $100 million, it was more than 5 times as expensive as anything Russell had ever worked on. But to his surprise, when he sat down for lunch with James, this was the movie he wanted to talk to him about. And then halfway through the lunch,
Jim started saying, we. And then when we, and I didn't even know, I'm going, is he saying I was tired or not? And I left the lunch not really knowing anything. A few days later, my agent called me and said, you idiot. Yeah, he hired you.
As exciting as this was for Russell, before he took the job, he was warned.
Several people told me, Jim's really, really hard on his cinematographers.
And it's not just his cinematographers.
He was hard on everybody, but if you're the person who's literally, 3 feet from it for most of the day, it makes it even harder.
But despite that,
pre-production on True Lies went great. We got into prep, and we got into scouting, and we went through all of it. And it was, I just thought, wow, this is going great, And so we started filming, and things were going great. So of course, somewhere in my mind, I just get the idea that, okay, well, whatever it is, I've broken the code. That's what I thought.
That was until they reviewed some of their footage for the first time.
We got back to LA and we went to see some dailies at the screening room at the Lightstorm facilities that were in Santa Monica at the time. All the department heads are there, and I'm sitting right next to Jim. You have this scene where Arnold is supposed to come home at night, and he's taking, I don't know, he's putting on his ring or something, and he looks in the mirror, and I say, that's a little dark. I'm going to go print this up 3 points. And then I look next to me, and Jim's just, his head, his head hanging low, and he's just shaking it. And Jim, what's wrong? He says, I have the highest paid actor in this or any other parallel universe, and I can't see his eyes. Jim, I'm just going to print this up 2 points. I'm sure it'll be fine. And he says, no, this scene is ruined, and we have to go film it again. All of this is loud enough that everybody there can hear. Another scene comes up, and he says, where did you learn how to read a light meter? I'm just going, what? What happened? And then every once in a while, another thing, like it was, my grandmother could light a scene better than this. And so by the end of the screening, I just want to get out of the room. I mean, as fast as I can. I was out of the room before the lights came on. Went out to the parking lot behind the building and called my wife and said, I gave it my best try. I'm going to be fired very soon, if not today, tomorrow.
When he hung up the phone, he looked up to see a producer and the
first assistant director. They're just looking at me and they've got these funny shit-eating grins, And I go, what? What's so funny? And they go, he says that and he does that to everybody. All you have to do is call Adam Greenberg or Mikhail Solomon or just talk to them for a little bit. And I forget who he called. I think it was Mikhail. He said, did he use the line, where did you learn to read a light meter? I go, yeah. And out of that, I decided, okay, all right, I'm digging in and I need this credit. I'm in.
And that's exactly what he did. He dug in and got the credit. And then when it came time to choose a cinematographer for Titanic, James Cameron asked Caleb Deschanel, who had shot movies like The Right Stuff, The Natural, and The Black Stallion. And Russell himself has even admitted that Caleb was the right choice to shoot Titanic. But then when Caleb and Cameron started to clash over James's management style, Russell got the call asking if he could take on Titanic, one of the most ambitious movies ever made, at the last minute. And after doing the right thing and calling Caleb and speaking to him first, Russell accepted the role. But because of when he came on,
Jim and I didn't have much time to talk at all, because he was shooting the modern sections of the film. And so we had this really short conversation. I said, well, talk to me about what the film should look like. And he said, it's a period film. You know what period films look like. That was it, So.
That's right. The direction Russell got for the visual look of a film that went on to win an Oscar was, what period films look like. But he didn't settle. He took that direction and then went and visited
the art department just to see what their artwork looked like, because I knew, especially on a Jim Cameron film, there have been discussions, and what you see is going to be driven by conversations the production designer had with Jim. And also I'd go to the visual effects department, because in there, you're going to see tons of artwork too, because especially at that time, I mean, every visual effects shot usually has a tremendous price tag on it. So that has to be worked out in detail.
And so despite coming on to the project late, Russell put everything he had into pre-production.
Because this is just the reality of making films. They're hard. They're mentally, they're physically hard. And you're not the same person you are in week 4 than you were in week 1. Person in week 4 is exhausted.
In his book, Never Split the Difference, former FBI negotiator Chris Voss wrote that when the pressure is on, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your highest level of preparation. And that is exactly what Russell's philosophy for filmmaking is.
So the idea doing this pre-production was to make a safety net. I can always say, when I had a brain, I can look through this thing and say, oh, this is what I wanted to do with this scene 53. And so now at least you have a place where in all the exhaustion and stuff, you're not really going to fall any lower than that.
And so despite Titanic's massive scale, with his preparation done and his experience on True Lies, Russell knew that he could do it. Because even though Titanic
was extremely hard, extremely challenging, but it wasn't challenging in the sense that True Lies.
And in the end, it paid off. Because
the Oscar goes to Russell Carpenter for Titanic.
My situation was very, very different than some of the amazing people we've seen come into Hollywood very soon and make their mark. That wasn't my story at all. the road to moving along in terms of what you do is not straight at all. I mean, it's up and down and backwards and even off the graph, and then you fight your way back onto the graph, and now things look like they're going somewhere. So I just felt that if I persisted, even if it was persisting slowly, if I made progress gently, things were going to be okay. And I really didn't know honest to God, I had no idea where I was going. All I wanted to do was be on a set. If you put out the energy of what you want to do, if you are constantly putting out that energy, I do feel the universe, the world, nature is going to come back with a response. I really believe that, and maybe it's, mumbo jumbo, but at least somehow I feel that that's true for me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to listen to my full hour-long interview with Russell, you can find it in Season 2 of the Arwell podcast, where we studied the life of James Cameron to find lessons that are relevant for modern creatives.